So today we have seen the first workout footage from Caitlin Clark this offseason, which is kind of crazy because this time last year, if you guys don't remember, there was the footage of Caitlin Clark making, was it like 92 of 100 threes or something in a workout. I was pretty sure it was on her birthday. There were all of these things. We saw a lot of Caitlin Clark footage.
Following the release of Caitlin Clark's first workout video of the offseason, the WNBA community is going crazy. Around this time last year, the video showing her draining 92 out of 100 threes went viral. However, this new video reveals something quite different, leaving viewers to question if she's going to address the obvious flaws in her game. We must analyze precisely what is happening in these clips because the timing is crazy and the consequences are significant.
An interesting one, and this is the first we have seen of Caitlin Clark's workout footage. You can't look too much into it, but all I will say is she looks like she's moving better than last year.
Please let me know in a comment before we begin the breakdown. Do you believe if Caitlin Clark improves her left-handed shooting and driving from her right pocket, she could truly become the greatest guard in WNBA history? Okay, so Caitlin Clark's first off-season exercise video has surfaced, and it's very different from what we saw the previous year. Recall the crazy video of Caitlin making 92 out of 100 three-pointers during a workout around this time last year. It spread like wildfire. We saw a ton of footage of her practicing shooting drills during the off-season, and everyone was talking about it.
Game winner.
Yes, bro.
This is the first real look we've had this year, and it's full 5-on-5 action. That alone is a significant shift compared to how things appeared a season ago. Within these clips, there are several subtle but important details that reveal what Caitlin and the Fever coaching staff have been emphasizing throughout the offseason. Let's begin with the most noticeable takeaway. Caitlin simply appears more fluid than she did last year. Some might argue that it's risky to draw conclusions from a small sample of footage, but stay with me. During parts of last season, particularly in the preseason stretch, she didn't seem completely right from a physical standpoint. Her movements lacked their usual sharpness, almost as if she wasn't fully comfortable or at peak health. It wasn't that she performed poorly, but she clearly wasn't operating at her highest gear. In this new footage, however, she's showing sharper stop-and-go actions, quicker directional changes, and an overall burst that wasn't consistently there at times last year. That's an encouraging development as she enters her second season, because if she's adding improved conditioning and mobility to the base she built as a rookie, the rest of the league should be concerned.
It was going around social media that Coach Brandon Payne, aka Steph Curry's shooting coach, so he is a performance coach. He's most famously known for working with Stephen Curry. He was at Butler and he posted this in his Instagram story. He said, one of the best college venues in college basketball. Always fun to be at Butler in a gym where Hoosiers was filmed. And a lot of people were wondering, like, why is he at a random college in Indianapolis, Indiana? Now, other fans were saying that this is not the first time that he's recently been in Indiana, so a lot of people are speculating that he might actually be working with Caitlin Clark. And I wouldn't be surprised because Coach Brandon Payne has also posted some things in his story about like Caitlin Clark's shoe, or when Steph Curry was wearing Caitlin Clark's PE. I don't remember if he was actually warming up for the game or if he wore it in game, but there has been some rumblings that he might be working with Caitlin Clark. And I know that we've done the Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark comps. Take everything else out of their game, both of them are currently the best shooters in their respective leagues. And so it would be really exciting to see her working with a high-level trainer like this.
Now let's break down what's actually happening in these clips, because there's a lot of real basketball detail to analyze. In one sequence, Caitlin comes off a screen going to her left, which immediately stands out since last season Aaliyah Boston set screens for her to the right almost every time. That shift alone suggests the Fever are intentionally working on something specific. She catches the ball in her left hand, quickly threatens a step back, moves it, gets it returned, drives left again, uses an arm bar after a pump fake, and finishes strong. That's exactly the type of realistic repetition you want in off-season workouts. Game speed actions designed to sharpen precise skills. And this leads to an important conversation about her weaknesses. Yes, weaknesses. Acknowledging that Caitlin Clark, even as a top 3 rookie in the WNBA, still has areas to improve isn't hate. It's analysis. In fact, the fact that she was already that dominant while having clear flaws should concern the rest of the league. The two biggest issues were her ability to attack going left and her tendency to shoot from her left pocket instead of her right. Defenders knew that when she went left, she was usually preparing to pass or pull up rather than pressure the rim, and her release point made her more predictable. That allowed opponents to shade coverage accordingly, limiting her options despite her elite skill level. The reality is this. Caitlin is one of those rare players where everyone in the building knows what's coming and it still doesn't make a difference. She can rise from 30 feet with defenders fully aware of the attempt, and she'll still knock it down because her strengths are that overwhelming. That's the level of talent we're talking about. But imagine if the obvious gaps in her game turn into even average-level skills instead of clear vulnerabilities. She wouldn't just be elite, she'd be unstoppable, potentially the greatest guard the sport has ever seen at her peak. That brings us back to the workout footage. There's a sequence where she pump fakes going left, shifts the ball to her right side, and elevates into a shot. That's a difficult move. Releasing from the right pocket off a left-hand dribble mirrors the mechanics of shooting off a right-hand handle or catch. During her rookie year in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark almost never took that shot. This isn't about efficiency because the sample size was so small it's impossible to judge. The key point is that she's now practicing it in live 5-on-5 settings, which shows the coaching staff has clearly identified it as a priority. Repping a move in solo drills is one thing. Executing it at full speed while reading defenders and making split-second decisions is entirely different. The fact that the Fever are using practice players to simulate real game action signals a serious commitment to refining these weaknesses. Compare that to last offseason, when most of the footage showed Caitlin training individually with skills coach Keith Porter while Stephanie White observed from the sideline. This year, the setup looks completely different. Instead of isolated reps, there are 10 players on the floor running full 5-on-5 games. Some of those practice players might even be getting compensated, while others are likely just eager for the chance to compete and say they matched up against Caitlin Clark. Either way, the emphasis has clearly shifted toward live, game-style development. Looking deeper into the clips, there are other details that stand out. In one sequence, Caitlin uses an arm bar to create space, and this is where some constructive criticism comes in. The motion resembles a push-off because her arm fully extends to gain separation, and that's the kind of move officials can easily whistle as an offensive foul. The line between a legal body bump and an illegal shove usually comes down to extension. Players like Luka Doncic are experts at using their frame to dislodge defenders subtly without straightening the arm, which keeps it within the rules. When the arm locks out, though, it becomes risky. In this particular clip, she didn't even gain real separation from the push, meaning the reward didn't justify the potential foul. That's a possession you can't afford to lose. If she's going to play with physicality, it has to be controlled and efficient, using her body to create space with better technique, equal or greater results, and far less chance of getting called for an offensive foul. Another noticeable pattern is that when she attacks left in these clips, she rarely looks fully committed to driving all the way to the rim. The first instinct appears to be a pull-up or a pass, and that tendency is exactly what defenders recognize. When there's no consistent downhill threat going left, the defense can shade coverage accordingly and guard her with more predictability. Am I overanalyzing a brief off-season workout clip? Of course. But right now, that's all the footage available, and when small snippets of Caitlin Clark content are slowly released to a fanbase hungry for updates, every second is going to be dissected. Limited access naturally leads to deeper breakdowns. The larger takeaway, though, is what truly matters. She's clearly targeting specific flaws in her game during the offseason. That's exactly what you expect from a superstar. She could easily rely on the elite skills that already make her dominant, but instead she's investing time in strengthening the weaker areas of her arsenal. That commitment is what separates very good players from all-time greats. It's not just about sharpening what you already excel at. It's about removing the gaps defenders exploit so they have fewer strategies to contain you. There's also the uncertainty surrounding whether the WNBA season will even tip off amid the ongoing CBA negotiations. Nafisa Collier has expressed confidence that the season will happen, which likely means discussions are ongoing, but both sides expect a resolution. While the situation remains unsettled, the expectation seems to be that an agreement will be reached. In the meantime, Caitlin is preparing as if games are right around the corner, which is the only logical approach. She can't afford to pause her development while the league and the Players Association sort out contractual details. Training has to continue with the assumption that competition is coming soon, regardless of how negotiations unfold. The shift to full 5-on-5 runs instead of simple shooting sessions really matters. It shows that Caitlin Clark is getting live repetitions against defenders applying real pressure. Last offseason, clips of her hitting 92 out of 100 threes in an empty gym were impressive, but that environment doesn't mirror actual game intensity. Now, the footage highlights her navigating real defensive coverage and executing within competitive situations. That reflects a more advanced and intentional offseason plan. It signals that the Fever staff has identified precise areas for growth and is structuring workouts to simulate true game conditions so she can sharpen those skills properly. One commenter mentioned how people once hoped she'd simply be able to participate in 5-on-5 action, and now she's knocking down game winners and pickup runs. It's a strange comparison because no one treats pickup as a measure of clutch performance, but it does underscore how much expectations have evolved. The bar for Caitlin is no longer just about being healthy enough to compete in the WNBA. The expectation now is dominance, being the top player in the league and contending for titles. That's the standard she's held to. So when we break down off-season footage, we're not searching for proof that she can play. We're evaluating whether she's positioning herself to elevate from elite to even more unstoppable. It's interesting to compare this with watching Unrivaled, where Paige Buchers and others are competing to stay in rhythm. Yet short workout clips of Caitlin Clark refining particular parts of her game seem to spark more conversation than full contests in a brand new 3-on-3 league. That says a lot about her drawing power and how closely fans track her progress. The release of this footage right at the start of the offseason also feels intentional. It suggests the Fever or her inner circle recognizes the demand for updates and plans to keep supporters engaged during the break, which is a smart play from both a branding and engagement perspective. The real question, though, is whether the off-season focus carries over once the WNBA season tips off. Practicing left-hand drives and right pocket releases is one thing. Executing those moves against elite defenses in meaningful games is another challenge entirely. Still, the commitment to addressing those gaps points toward noticeable growth in year 2. In short, this first batch of off-season footage highlights her targeting the same weaknesses that prevented her from being fully unstoppable as a rookie. If she truly sharpens the left side attack and diversifies her shooting pocket, the rest of the league could be facing a serious problem.